You want the short prayer, right?
Yeah, please.
Father, Son, and Spirit, good, and we thank you for this gathering again for the Friday pre-servant group. Bless all the servants and all the pre-servants, and help us still during this lockdown and to find your peace and security, and all the members of the church. Guide them, Lord, the Lord of the Empowerment. Through make us worthy to pray. Thank you for saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thanks so much, David, again for this opportunity. I know you're probably getting sick of me, but what can you do? Okay, so look, I'll try again to cover what David's asked, which is a brief overview of arguments for God's existence. Again, we'll stress the word brief. I've been warned about the time limit. We just wasted a couple of minutes. But yeah, we'll try to cover this. It's an important topic, like both David and Carlos said last week. So we'll try to build upon that. So the first thing, yeah, we'll just focus on a couple, just two, or not even three, just a couple of main arguments for God's existence. So just this first one, we can see it's kind of talking about the universe, the argument from the universe. And there's some formal words, but we'll just keep it simple. Argument from the universe, cosmological argument. Another one we'll focus on, which is, if you just read this, talking about order or design. So that's famously known as the argument from design. It has a fancy term, teleological. Just very briefly, the teleo is like the end. Like you have chromosome, Dr. Carlos will know, you have the chromosome at the ends of it, it's called the telomere or something, telomere. So the point of saying that is because it has an end goal. So what's the order of what is the order of the end goal? What do we have an order for? Why do we have design? What's the end target? So these are the two we'll focus on. I wanted to focus on morality, but we definitely don't have enough time. And that's famously known as the axiological argument. And we know what that word means. I guess we do. Axios, which means, I don't know why I keep trying, but who's here? Anyone know what axios might mean? You know how we say it in the mass? Or in the hymns, you will sing it. Don't make me sing it. Huh? Anyone have any idea what that word might mean? Amira or Carlos or William or Verena or Sarah? That's about it, besides the servants. Anyone know that? Know the word? So Carlos, what does it mean?
Is it worthy, Abuna?
Yeah, it's worthy. That's right. Yeah. So again, we have extreme worthiness. Yeah. But we're not going to focus really on that at all because we'll run out of time. And again, yeah, I mean, if we did have more time, we could focus about how the world has become really immoral, and people like to always hide that in their arguments. So just briefly, why these arguments are important. We touched upon this last week. Before we get into the two main arguments we want to focus on, it's always important to stress, why are we doing it? Why are we spending our time? What's the point of doing any kind of arguments or any kind of apologetics at all? Like we said last week, two main reasons: to convince skeptics of the rationality and truth behind Christianity. We mentioned this last week. And to dispel, remove. David said this last week. He goes, it's normal to have doubts. So, okay, I added this word. Okay, if it's normal, let's put it in there. To dispel the normal doubts that Christians may feel about their own faith. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, what can happen? You can really go down the pathway. If it's not, like David said again last week at the end, if you don't deal with these doubts, it could be harmful for you. So it's important to do that if you have these normal doubts. Yeah, and even like I remember one of the girls in the picture that I showed last week when I attended the debate, one of them really, I mean, she's left the church for a considerable amount of time. And I think a large part of it is because her doubts were not being resolved. So she would attend these atheist Christian debates or apologetic debates. But and from I used to be good friends with her, and in my opinion, I think that she got caught up with her doubts and got caught up with just focus on the apologetics, and she lost the spiritual side, unfortunately. So that's what can happen, of course, if you go down. There can be many harms if you don't resolve a doubt, and further to that, there can be harms if you just focus on the arguments and miss out on the spirituality, like we stressed last week, and I'll stress it again briefly though. Just couple of Bible verses. We won't talk about the Bible much at all, like direct quotes, of course. So this is a verse that stands out for me when we talk about these kind of arguments, because we believe they're true. If we believe the arguments are true, we want to go to the source of truth, which is Christ. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And when Pilate is questioning Christ, and he's saying, what is truth? Like, Christ says, I'm the way, the truth, and life. What is truth? It's an extremely important concept, and that's what this whole apologetics is. Seek me with all your heart. That's a nice verse. Yeah, and we said as well at the end, it's great if you have the simple faith, that's great. But if you don't, the ignoring it, or not resolving your doubts, not dispelling your doubts, removing your doubts, may not be bliss at all. The expression ignorance is bliss, that's not always true, I think. If you ignored a real doubt, I think you're going to go down that pathway like the girl we mentioned. Especially if you have a skeptical mind, like a mind that questions and likes to always think and have investigation. But simple faith, go for it. You got the simple faith, go for it. Again, we believe these arguments are important because they show that Christianity has a sound rational basis. It's anything but stupid. It's the exact opposite. Yeah, and hopefully we said apologetics will increase our faith, just like an anchor. And I'll speak personally because I guess this is why David asked me to talk about it, because I had an interest when I was young. I still do, but particularly when I was a bit younger. What actually happened, I'll try to keep this brief, but what actually happened, I remember reading a book called The Case for Christ. This book changed my life, really. It really did. I read it before I joined, and I don't know why I bought it. I don't know how it happened. I think I remember a speaker talking about him, because long story short, for those who haven't heard of him, which I assume is the majority, the author, Lee Strobel, he was an atheist who was a lawyer and a journalist, just a journalist, and he wanted to disprove the claims of Christianity because his wife became a Christian. He wasn't happy that his wife became a Christian, and this is not what he agreed to or signed up for in the marriage. So he basically said, I'm going to disprove Christianity using my investigative journalist skills. And he did this big tour around America for like a year and a half, and he investigated all the claims for Christianity, for Christ. He did other books too. And it was really good. Like, I remember reading that book, and after reading the book, or during reading the book even, I felt that it became an anchor for me. My faith grew because the evidence was so overwhelming, and he even alludes to this in the end of the book. He says at the end, the ironic thing was this, it would take greater faith for me to maintain my atheism than to not, submit to Christianity or surrender to the truth of Christianity. So I felt that was very interesting, and for me, it always became an anchor. Had a sound rational basis in anything in the future, and even in simple Bible verses, I would like, look, even if I didn't necessarily agree with the verse, and I'm like, this sounds a bit strange, I would go, look at all the outstanding evidence, compelling evidence that the Bible is true, or it's a source of truth. Like, very quickly, one example, there's a verse that says, David might not like it because he's married. There's a verse that says in Corinthians, it says, he who is married will care for the things of his wife and the world. And then it says, he who is not married will care for the things of the Lord. And you read that, I'm like, that's pretty strong. You're really going to say that those who are married, you know, they get caught up with the world. They can get caught up with the world. That's what the Bible says. And that was like, that verse is like, oh wow, especially for me, as I was giving this monastic twist for you guys. I'm like, this is powerful. I'm like, are you sure that's true? But hey, I go back to the source. This is the anchor. It's founded on 20,000 manuscripts. So much evidence. We're not going to get into all of that again. So yeah, I thought I just read it in there, and I recommend anyone to read that book. Apologetics, I think. Just move this out of the way. Apologetics, I think, yeah, we said this is not the bread and butter, but more like vitamins and minerals. Just like you don't take vitamins and minerals as your core, you know, you don't feed the animals vitamins and minerals every day. You feed them the macro ingredients. So we should focus on the real spiritual food, which is what do we say? Prayer, sacraments, Bible study, fellowship. You got the Bible study Wednesday, anything like that. Okay, just a couple of verses. We touched upon. You know, this is why we believe in doing apologetics or having an argument, because all Scripture can be questioned and for reproof, for corrections, and so forth. Run to these quickly. Yeah, and we should always have an answer to anyone that questions us for our faith, especially when you're doing something different. Christians stand out. The word sanctify in the Greek means I'm not going to ask you. It means to be set apart. So if you're set apart, there's a good chance you're going to be asked about what you're doing. So if you're fasting, you're attending a late mass and you're fasting all day, there's a chance you might get asked, okay, why are you not eating? Why are you eating? And there's a chance for you to proclaim your faith. But of course, this also focuses on people that question and attack our faith severely. So the world, as I sort of focus on the two main arguments. One of them is the cosmological argument, the universe. Yeah, we're not going to focus too much on the laws. That's just a law. The reason I throw that law in there is because for the world to exist, there's only two options. Only two. Either someone made the world or the world made itself. It can't be either one. And so, yeah, we'll focus on this cosmological argument. Yeah, this is just the last picture of the world. It looks beautiful, doesn't it? You know, when they the first time they saw the moon, because obviously, you know, we got to include everything in the universe. The first time they saw the far side of the moon, meaning like there's one side you can only see most of the time. The far side of the moon, the first time they saw it, the astronauts, they were so amazed and they were impressed that they read from the book of Genesis, and they read, you know, chapter 1, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, because they're just so amazed at the awe of the creation. They wouldn't do that today, I think, in astronomy. Okay, so we'll focus on this argument briefly. Try to keep it simple and brief as best as I can. I'm not an expert at all. Abun Antonis, you should have got Abun Antonis. He's better than me. Anyway, generally, like we said last week, everything that begins has a cause. Begins to exist has a cause. There must be an uncaused first cause to start off this chain. God is the only thing that qualifies as that first cause. Yeah, so that's, you know, our conclusion. So the cosmological argument, interesting, because it has the word kalam, which is, kalam. That's where it actually comes from, like speech or doctrine. Like it kind of originated in Egypt and in Islam. Anything that begins to exist has a cause. It's very important we stress this word begins. The universe began to exist. Therefore, the universe has a cause. It sounds simple enough. And we believe that the cause is, what's the cause? Who is the cause? Thomas Benjamin. Nah, baby. Thomas, he's not even. I don't think he's looking at me. So yeah, of course, of course, we believe that the cause, of course, is God. But we stress why, because we have to give reasons why. Because He is uncaused. God is uncaused. Because He has not begun to exist. He is. If He hasn't begun to exist, He's therefore eternal. You know, we say in the prayer in the mass, holy God, holy mighty, holy immortal. Yeah, is is eternal, changeless, timeless, beginningless, spaceless, and immaterial. Again, I know there's a big words. I'm just trying to keep it concise and yeah, simple. We'll touch upon this, try to expand it, but it's definitely a key argument. Yeah, and of course, we're going to add further to that. It's personal. God is personal. That's the difference between us and other, other faiths. So, Islam, there's no such thing as a personal God. And of course, He's powerful. And we have free will because of His love. Yeah, why is He uncaused? Because I'm trying to simplify it, but like He's uncaused because if you would just keep having more causes. So, you say, who created God? It loses the purpose of the question because then you have another cause. So we have to stress that anything that begins to exist, okay, has a cause. So the universe began to exist. Is timeless and changeless because God created time, and is immaterial because created and transcends space. Yeah, so that's just important. I remember talking to someone while we were making our barn actually at St. Barbara, and one of the person was asking is was questioning the faith, and why does God do this? How did this universe come into being? Like you got to remember, Ahmad, that God created time, so He's outside of our realm. I said, yeah, it's good. That's a good point. That's what he said. It's interesting because historically, what we just said was not how what we believe today because of science was certainly not how it used to be, meaning that the universe began to exist. Not at all. It's interesting historically. The universe having a beginning in the past does not date back to Greek philosophers at all. Can anyone think of a Greek philosopher in the old times? I have to pick names. I keep forgetting that. Thomas, you didn't answer the first part. Time. Any Greek
Now I
philosophers?
can hear you.
Tama, nice excuse.
Name a Greek philosopher.
Any ancient Greek philosopher, like middle century, early century, because more than likely, almost certainly, they did not believe that the universe had a cause, had a beginning. One Greek philosopher.
Plato. Is that a bloke?
Yeah, Plato. Yeah, that's good. No, thank God. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah. People like Plato, Aristotle. No, thank you. I'm very appreciative. Plato, Aristotle. These kind of people always in the ancient Greek, and they dominated the world at that time. You got to remember the time of the Hellenists, the Greeks. They were the dominant force. And they had made a big deal about we have to translate the Bible, the New Testament, to Greek because it was such a powerful culture and your language and so forth. So they really had a major say politically. And it's interesting because all the ancient Greek philosophers like Plato, Aristotle, and so forth, they all believed that the universe was eternal. They did not have the science that we have now, but they believe the universe is eternal. And this is very important because it defeats this whole point where we're saying that the universe began to exist and it doesn't have a cause. If the universe is eternal, therefore conversely or oppositely, therefore the universe does not have a cause if it's eternal. Yeah, and the Greeks always believed that the material world was eternal, like the world we live in, like we just said that. Now the situation has reversed completely, particularly in the last 100 years. the last 100 years with the advancements in technology and science. It's interesting though, even though all the Greek people believed, pretty much all the Greeks philosophers believed in the universe being eternal. Even in like the early centuries, there was some that did not believe that. They believed that the universe had a beginning, had a cause. There's one very famous person. I keep saying famous as if you guys have all heard of him. But there's a famous 4th century philosopher and science at the time called John Philoponus. And he said in the 4th century, way before like people like Aristotle, was like the 12th century, he said that the earth had a beginning, the universe had a beginning. And further to that, he wrote critical books of the Greeks. I haven't read them, but like here's a copy, like Philoponus against Aristotle on the eternity of the world. So that's pretty interesting. I really should buy that book for the monastery, and we can read it. So yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. So in the 4th century, but now with the advancements of technology, it's not even like a debate. It's just unanimous with what's happened. There's so many things like the Earth expanding and things like that. You studied this in school. Yeah, like this is talking about just briefly about the universe. If the universe is expanding, okay, so if it's expanding, we're talking about having a beginning. And it's just I just want to emphasize how some of the things are really funny, because if you take out God from the equation, it's hard to conceive a universe, because in the beginning there's nothing. Because we all believe now the universe began to exist, so the world began to exist. So therefore, before that there was nothing. Yeah, just let's read this. It's quite humorous. In the realm of the universe, nothing really means nothing. So that's smart. Yeah. Not only space and energy would disappear, because in the universe, okay, we have matter and space and energy and so forth, and time. We said God created time just earlier. However, physicists theorize that from this state of nothingness, the universe began, to exist. But how? That says nothing, because from nothing, nothing comes. You don't get something out of nothing. You don't go to the park and there's no one there. There's no animals there. Like let's say there's no bulls or horses in Australia. You go to the park and you leave your child there. You don't say, look, I better be careful. I'll check up in 1 hour because the horse is going to come and attack him. If there's none that exists, it can't come from nothing. So it doesn't make sense in that aspect. One more. The universe burst into something. Yes, we agree. From nothing, I agree. But we disagree about where the source is. Okay? And how is that possible? Of course, we believe that God is this possibility. And we have to beg the question, if we're talking about the universe, we have to ask these many questions. Where did matter come from? Fair question. Where did the laws come from? Fair question. Where did energy come from? Fair question. And more importantly, why is there, like I remember Abuna Turnus, he said this, in all the years I've been debating, I've been involved in apologetics, he said, I've never received a good answer from a non-Christian, from an atheist, yeah? Why is there something rather than nothing? Never. And I remember I attended one of his debates, what do you call it? He had some seminar in the St. Archangel Michael Church, and he asked this question outright to atheists, and at the end he goes, "Look, I'm still not satisfied about the answer. Why is there something rather than nothing from you?" And that begs the question. Why is something rather than nothing? And people that are not Christian, will always have this on their mind. Why do we exist? Why do we have something rather than nothing? Because people look beyond food, beyond material things, and they can always ask this question. They will always be surrounded by this question. Okay. The second argument from design. theological argument. We see all around us order and harmony. Such things do not arise randomly, but through the action of an intelligence. God must be the intelligent designer. There's a big movement called intelligent design, which you're not allowed to teach in schools because it goes against the opposite of the creationist worldview. So the man worldview, the humanist worldview. So, but we believe, of course, with order. And we said last week, if you see a building, you believe there's a builder. If you see a painting, you see a painter. If you see something intelligent, okay, there must be a source of intelligence. So that's why we believe in intelligent design. It's a good movement. And if we have a creation, therefore we believe in a creator. This always asks a question. And even very simple things and everything that you have, no one assumes, the watch you're wearing on your hand. I got a G-Shock watch. The watch you're wearing on your hand, no one assumes that this came randomly. And a watch is, it's complicated, but it's nothing compared to like a 747 airplane. And a 747 airplane is, nothing like the human body at all. Of course, Carlos is an expert in this. He can tell you how complex the human body is, and it just takes something so much order and so many small things that the human body needs, to function together. He will know, how deep the cells go. We're not even really going to get into the cells because that's a big topic. But he will know, the complexity of DNA, complexity of proteins to build the DNA, complexity to build the cells, and then you have the cells together to make a functioning organ, and then you have a functioning organ system. It's incredibly complex, incredibly, astronomically complex. So yeah, it defies logic to say that it was created at random. No one upholds that view in common day, behavior or common day sensitivity, common day logic. Yeah, we'll touch upon this argument, the fine-tuning argument, touch upon it. Again, very briefly, argument from intelligent design. It's a big topic. David likes to give me the big topics. This topic does date back to the Greek philosophers, not like the last one, not like the cosmological argument or the argument from the universe, where it was always, the universe is eternal. These people, the old Greek philosophers like Plato, Aristotle, they did refer to the argument from design, and like I also said last week, atheism is a new thing. It's called New Age atheism for a reason, because people in the past always believed in a God because intelligence was all around us. It didn't take a genius to work that out. We didn't need advanced science to work out this design, this order. When Noah is building the flood, he's got a lot of skill to do that, and it works. But even something older than that, you have something like the pyramids, which are so complex at the time. And ancient man was not stupid. I would just stress this point. I even read a book. I got the book behind me, like how the puzzle of ancient man it's called, and it was a good book. Like it talks about how there's so many ancient things, i.e. the pyramids, but many others that show that ancient man was so smart. It's false to think that man is becoming progressively smarter. If anything, they may be becoming more silly in some things, but it's false to think that we're becoming progressively smarter. Ancient man was always intelligent, always, and we to this day we still don't know how to build the pyramids. No matter, and even like the largest crane I think can lift like 20,000 tons, and the pyramids itself, like they're beyond that. They exceed that number of weight. So we don't know how they did it at all. And look how high the pyramid is. It doesn't make sense. And that's why it's also good to look up in the stars. You do look up at the stars, you see how complex, the world is. Because they used to, when Abraham was, when God told him, I'm God, okay? He told him, go outside, Genesis 15, I think it is, go outside, and what? What did he say? Why would he tell him to go outside for? Give it one more try for interaction. Verena, do you have any idea why God told Abraham to go outside?
I have no idea.
Yeah, so I mean, he went outside so he told him go count the number of stars to realize how big the universe is and how small you are. Yeah, and we got to do this more often and not look at the TV. Yeah, and there's like we said, the watch. There's a famous book about the watch, and we didn't even get into the cell, which is so complex. DNA is so complex in itself. Trying to move a bit quicker. So for these arguments to work, you're talking about the theological argument, yeah, the argument from design. Okay, we have to assume that the fact of fine tuning has to be established. So when we say fine tuning, we're talking about incredible order. That's what we mean, incredible order. And then it begs the question: if there is incredible order, where does that order come from? And of course, obviously, we're biased. We say it comes from God. A is not under any argument, really. There's no question that the universe has incredible order. Just like there's no argument now that the universe has a beginning, effectively by any good philosopher. And the argument is, where does this fine tuning come from? Which really, there's not much debate. It's just people that have closed minds, unfortunately. So, argument one for theological argument, the first argument from the order. The universe, again, very briefly, just like three things. The universe seems to have been ordered and designed with exquisite, great accuracy. That's a very kind statement, very kind. Like, that's polite. That's putting it mildly. It's it's astronomically accurate. Like, infinitesimal, like, yeah, let's not get into big words. The universe seems to have been fine-tuned for life to an incredibly accurate degree. If you do any research in this, many astronomers themselves have become Christian. The ones that have open minds. I remember reading a book about someone. He became Christian just because, like astronomer, just because of the depths of astronomy, the universe. The best way to explain things like order, design, and fine-tuning is that there is a designer behind them, i.e. God. I don't think we have any argument with that amongst ourselves. So what is fine-tuning? Briefly. I said the word briefly a lot today. Scientists refer to the extraordinary balancing of the fundamental laws and parameters of physics and the initial condition of the universe. I hope it's not too complex. Our minds can't comprehend the precision of some of them, which is true. If you do any research, there's like 50 different parameters, 50 different like things that are so complex that if one of them was just a little bit out of order, a little bit, move this way or move that way, there wouldn't be life. The result is a universe that has just the right conditions to sustain life. The coincidences, and I should have put inverted commas for coincidences, are simply too amazing to have been the result of what? Yeah, like I just want to stress the word to sustain life because generally speaking, I can keep boring you with more details. Generally speaking, everything gets worse with time. Everything gets worse with time. And the reason we stress this is that, therefore, if everything gets worse with time, logically, we would have more disorder in the world, and therefore, there wouldn't be a source of life. So if everything, gets worse with time, if you put like, your laptop outside, in the sun for a long time, it's going to get damaged. So if you don't treat your body with medicine, if you don't take the medicine that the Krolos prescribes you, you're going to get human body is going to get worse. And we're all slowly dying, we're all dying really. So we're all tending towards disorder. So I just want to stress that. So one of the expressions they use a lot in these terms is that it's much more likely or probable for a life prohibiting life. What's another word for prohibit? Like less likely for life to exist than a life permitting. Much big difference, big scale difference. Just wanted to stress that. So yeah, and it's simply too amazing to have been the result of what? Anyone have any idea what anyone? Let's not say anyone. Why? What if you were a neutral? If you were not a believer, what could you attribute? Let me pick a name. You told me pick on Christopher. You answered last week. Christopher Habibi. Christopher. How come his camera's not on? He's supposed to be a dictator, David. If you were
Yes, Abuna, what was the question?
yeah, I'm going to phrase the question now. If you were a neutral, let's pretend, let's be a neutral, right? You're not a believer, and you saw all this order in the universe, and you don't believe it's God. What could be possibly one thing you could say why there is order? If it's not God, why do you see like order? How could it happen? What could you say?
I would say it just happened. Like it just happened by chance.
Yes, 100%. That's one of the things I say. I'm very glad you answered that. you lived up to your reputation from last week. Yeah, so they say many things like chance, and we'll get into a few of these briefly. Life is balanced on a razor's edge. It really is. It really is. It's too coincidental. Again, I should have put inverted commas coincidence. It's not a coincidence. It's designed by God. Too fantastic meaning too like incredible. To be random chance, just like Chris was just saying, they will say it's random chance to non-believers. Just look at that order. Because David, you told me how much I like you like astronomy, so you should talk about it. Yeah. So yeah, look at that order. You see all these galaxies. That's actually a picture of from the Hubble Space Telescope when they thought it was like a black spot. Because of course, back in the older times, I think there's nothing special about our universe. There's no point in looking up because it's just empty space. It's infinite, infinitely worthless up there. There's nothing worth value. There's no order. There's no design. Just lots of and if the earth is empty space, therefore we ourselves don't have value. That's the logic. That's the argument from a non-believer. So yeah, they actually pointed they put a Hubble Space Telescope. They kept you were capturing an image for a period of time because they thought it was just darkness, and they held the image for like 15 days. Again, under the assumption it's going to be nothing there. But it turns out there was so many hundreds of millions of galaxies in just a small area, and different types. There's like 4 main types. You got your elliptical, you got your spiral, you got your irregular. Anyway, let's not go there. Okay, just two. I'm going to pick two of the fine-tuning argument. Just two. I think there's 50. Other people say there's like 30. We'll pick two. One of them is called the cosmological constant. Yeah. The fine-tuning factor, meaning like the order of us having a constant of the universe. So like another constant is like gravity. Another constant we have is cosmological constant, the Earth itself. So the fine-tuning factor, meaning 1 in like 10^60. That means if this constant was changed, like a constant, you have like when you have like an equation, you have a constant in it, like a formula, part of a formula. If this constant was changed, by 1 in 10 to the power of 60 zeros, some large number, whatever it is. We know there's so many numbers. It would not work for life. And it's very large numbers, and there are many analogies. So this 10 to 60 zeros, I don't know how many number there is for that is, or how many they have a number. After billion, you got trillion after trillion. I think 60 might be like 6 trillion. I forgot the number. This is being compared to firing a bullet at a coin at the other end of the observable universe, 20 billion light years away. And again, a light year is the distance light travels in 1 year, which is billions of kilometers. Shooting and hitting it. So here's like a quick. So you got your target, He's shooting. He's not shooting like 10 meters away. He's shooting 20 billion light years away, which is astronomical kilometers away, and he's hitting the target. So yeah, in other words, the fine-tuning factor is effectively zero. We can keep going, but we just pick two examples. There's no point in going and reading all these numbers. When I was reading these books, you get the point. You don't want to hear more analogies. You get the point. It's so astronomical, meaning so large, that there's no point in putting a value on it. That's why they stop with the numbers and they give analogies. Like other analogies. All the sand on the sea. Yeah, you had like a card on for every sand on the sea, and then you flip the card. You're gonna get one shot. You flip the card, and that's the one on all the sand in the world. So, mind-boggling. You can't comprehend the numbers. One more. Oh, sorry, the same constant. Yeah, if the constant was changed, like if it was larger or negative, the scientists believe that life wouldn't exist. And this is the fancy way to say it. The reverse, yeah, it's just a fancy way to say it, that there wouldn't be life. Let's not go there. It's going to get too complex. If it was the opposite way, if it was positive way, again, life wouldn't exist. You wouldn't be able to. The force would be too strong for us to have galaxies and stars and planets forming, because we believe that the universe had a beginning, and this is that's a basis for the future, for the Earth, and of course for human beings. The Earth is a planet, in case you didn't know. That was just a joke. Strength of gravity. One more constant. So gravity we're all familiar with. So you have a constant of gravity, which is like 9.8 meters per second squared, and gravity is constant throughout the whole world, throughout the universe. Yeah. So even on the moon, a common argument is if I have a like here's my iPad, and if I had an iPad and I had a feather or something lighter, piece of paper, right? You drop these two on Earth, they fall down at the same rate because of the strength of gravity, but one will hit the ground before on Earth because of air resistance. Yeah, and on the moon where there's no air, that's why they wear oxygen mask and all that. They dropped a hammer and a feather at the same time. You can watch a video on YouTube for yourself. I played it in class before, and they land at the same time because gravity is a constant in the universe. And there's no such thing as zero G, by the way, because gravity exists around the whole universe. There's nothing zero gravity. It's gravity exists throughout the whole universe. So the strength of gravity is the same. All right, and if this constant was changed just by a little bit, yeah, 1 in the 10 to the power of 40. So that's a very small number. If that was changed by that, so that number, so the percentage is so small. It's 0.0000000% change. Not like 5%, 000 with many zeros. If it was changed by that much, you wouldn't have life. Because gravity is very important. There's not life on other planets because of many reasons, but one of them is because of gravity. On Jupiter, there's so much strong gravity that you'd be crushed. Jupiter has a larger mass than the Earth, much larger, so therefore has more gravity. Any weaker, and stars would never undergo fusion, like joining, like combining the elements to have more stars, and ignite to produce heavy elements. Therefore, no life. And the opposite, any stronger, you can guess what I'm going to say. Any stronger, there would be no life. Stars will burn too fiercely to produce elements of life. Yeah, like we said, if it was too strong, animals would be crushed. Animals the size of us would be crushed because of the strength, the force of gravity. And no animals could grow. Even insects themselves would be affected. Small insects, which are really so small, why would they be affected by gravity? Because they have such a small mass. They would need really big legs, so they wouldn't exist. God created order. And you know, there's another famous video called Intelligent Creatures That Defy Evolution. I forgot the title, but it's really, I think that's what it is. Incredible Creatures That Defy Evolution. And they pick all these amazing animals that it's just incredible design that if one thing was just changed, they wouldn't survive. There would be no ecosystem, etc. No incredible creatures as well. Probability, a couple more before David cuts me off. So yeah, to work out the probability of something, you combine the two together. So we gave two examples, yeah? 1 in 10 to the power of 40. This is the last time we'll use numbers. 1 in 10 to the power of 40, that's the strength of gravity. And then we have the other one, which was 1 in 10 to the power of 60, I think it was. 1 in 10 to the power of 60. So therefore, if you were to compare these two constants, it would just times them together. And that would give a really large number. Yeah? So that's just how you work. You know how to work probability, I think, from maths. So here it is. Let's compare the two together. These are two out of, I believe, 50. At least 30. 1 in 10 to the power of 100. Imagine if we did all of them. All of them. So these numbers, so many zeros. Just so many zeros. This is the probability of something that will relate to probability of you being hit by lightning. So sorry. It's not even close to the probability of being hit by lightning. This is 6 zeros. Sorry, I got a touch screen laptop. 1 in 3 million is being hit by lightning, and we got 100 zeros. 100 zeros. Rather winning a lotto, yeah, it's 2 and that's a high number. I don't know why people play lotto then. Probably of you being hit by lightning twice. 1 in 9. I don't even know what number that is. Like, it's not 9 trillion because it's more than that. Probability of tossing a coin for 100 tails in a row. So this is a much smaller number. Sorry, it's smaller compared to the 100 zeros, yeah. And no one gets this in reality. You can toss a coin, you never get 100 tails in a row. So yeah. So the probability of just 2, like we said, of the 34, I still think they're 50. Parameters required for light being just right is 1 in, yeah, there you go. That's 1 in 100. It's a small number, very small number. So again, like I said, the point of saying this, just to give you an idea of the astronomical numbers. But this says nothing about us as Christians believing in a personal God. But for those that are skeptical or like to know a bit more about some of the scientific side or the philosophical side, it's good to know. It's good to know. It's not the bread and butter, but it's good to know, I think. Not bad. It's good to know for a preservants. What are the alternatives? Like Chris said, one of them is chance. We'll just pick a couple. Of course, we believe that God is the creator. That's the most obvious logical conclusion. Anyone that does not say that, they're going against logic. Anthropic principle. I try to keep this very simple. This is a fancy way to say, look, we exist, and because we exist, we exist in the earth. Therefore, the universe exists. Because we're able to have rational mind to know that we exist. Therefore, the universe exists. If that makes sense. Let me see how I wrote it. Yeah. So we should not be surprised that everything is just right for us. It's not a surprise. That's what they say. Some people say, yeah. Because if we weren't, we would not here to think about it. I know it's a bit complex, but since we can observe it, therefore the logic is fine-tuning is just a consequence. It's just an expected behavior because we can think about it rationally. But that itself still requires an explanation. Even if we are here by logic or by rationality, or you can think about it, or even by luck, extreme chance, it still requires an explanation. It does not remove the fact that there is fine-tuning or incredible order. Incredible order. So yeah, no, it doesn't remove that. So like, even let me give you one more example. Let's say I'll give an extreme example. Let's say I'm about to be executed by a firing squad. Okay, and there's 5 people there, and they're going to shoot me to death, and I'm blindfolded. After 5 minutes, okay, no one shoots me to death. The logic is on the anthropic principle, because I'm still alive to think of and have a rational mind. Therefore, the people, like the universe exists, or I'm all right, I exist. But there is other. It doesn't explain why I didn't get shot down. I didn't get shot down because of another reason, because of intelligence. Yeah, the people decided not to shoot me down, or they said, the guns failed. So that's important to keep in mind. It's a very fancy word. I don't want to stress too much about it, but someone like Carlos who might want to learn more, you can get it. Another thing is the multiverse, which is basically saying, the word multi means many. So the multiverse, the logic is there are many universes, and therefore if there's many universes, therefore there is life somewhere else. But again, this doesn't remove the logical explanation that there is fine-tuning on Earth. So even if life exists in another universe, which there is zero evidence at all, it's just a hype. It's just a complete an idea, a concept, something. There's no scientific basis. Even if it did, it wouldn't remove the fact there's fine-tuning on Earth, which requires an explanation. I hope that makes a bit of sense. And that's just, if a universe is one of millions universes, you can read it for yourself. Okay. And here's just, I didn't even get into the cell, okay, because the cell is so complex, and I will go over the time limit as usual. This is the last slide. Last slide, David, is that all right? Thanks. So the privileged planet. I think it's the last slide, by the way. The privileged planet. I really believe that we're privileged. We're privileged. The Earth is a unique planet. It really is. It really is, because there's life. And you will see some of the reasons which we'll very, very briefly touch upon. Rather than being one planet among billions, there are many planets here. Earth now appears to be the uncommon Earth, meaning it's such a rare event to have life. It's unique. It really is. Yeah, maybe this for another time. So many things. The Earth's location, such as the distance. If the distance was changed from the Earth to the Sun, we would fry up. If it was closer, right? If the Sun was closer. If the Earth was further away, it would be too cold. Everything would freeze. It's logical. Even the orbit. Probably some of you don't know. So of course, you know what orbit is? You studied orbit, like should I pick on someone? Doesn't matter. Orbit. The orbit is when something goes around an object. So and it's used by gravity. The Earth does not follow it's a very circular orbit. It's very unique. Most planets, they follow an elliptical meaning like more of an oval orbit. So the reason that's important, if the Earth had a non-circular orbit, it's almost perfectly circular. Had a non-circular orbit, it would have extreme temperatures towards the middle. So meaning there wouldn't be life. Just wanted to throw that in there. Even the size is important, the mass, that's important. You can read that, you can study that in your own time. Composition, structure, atmosphere is perfect, temperature, we just mentioned, sophisticated cycles such as the carbon cycle, oxygen cycle, water cycle, etc. All, exquisitely and precariously, meaning like it's on like a knife edge. If it was like a seesaw, if it was just tipped the other way, the seesaw would tip that way, go down that way, or like a tightrope. One of the interesting thing, the Earth, even something like a solar eclipse. Anyone heard of a solar eclipse? I have to pick on someone because it's we're talking for too long without interaction. Amira never answers anything. Who else is he? Verena. Anyone know? You have any idea what a solar eclipse might be?
From my understanding, a solar eclipse is when the sun crosses over the moon.
Yeah, close enough. Close enough. So yeah, it's basically, long story short, it's when you have the Earth and the moon and the sun. So in that order. So you like we're on the Earth, then we can see the moon, then we can see the sun. But more importantly, the moon is basically blocking the sun from the Earth's perspective. And there's such thing as a total solar eclipse, which means that the sun has been totally covered, eclipsed, covered, and therefore we get darkness on Earth. But you think about it, how on earth could the moon block the sun if the moon is it's like the sun is 400 times larger than the sun. So 400 times larger than the moon. But because it's 400 times further away, the sun is 400 times further away. Therefore, there is a certain time, like once every 3 years on a certain part of Earth, where it actually lines up perfectly. It's a very famous thing, a total solar eclipse. And you look at that, and I myself I ask you, and I ask the non-believer, the atheist, it needs an explanation. You really think that was by chance? The numbers are perfectly 400 by 400 to get perfect proportion. If you did not have it perfect, you would not get a total solar eclipse. It's a very famous event. Even we went to before we joined. We went to Sydney Observatory. Yeah, I organized it for, like, David was part of it, and I asked the man this question. It was really good. Well, I enjoyed it. I asked the man this question, the teacher. I said to him, "What is the best thing you've seen as an astronomer? Yeah, like what's the best thing you've seen?" And he didn't hesitate. He didn't say something from a telescope. The best thing I saw was a total solar eclipse. He said some people cry when they see it. It's that special. And it needs an explanation because it's perfectly proportional. And it's from God. There's no doubt about it. And even when recently we had the lunar eclipse, we had the blood moon, which is the lunar eclipse. It's special. God did it for us. Astronomy is for us. God taught Abram to go outside because he made it for us to wonder and say the heavens declare the glory of God. I recommend you do it in your spare time. The sun is a very special star we won't get into, especially with the time. It really is unique. It's effectively unique. Like, it's only like, I said I wasn't going to get to it, so let's not say anything. Okay, the moon is our life-supporting satellite. It's affected by things like the tilt and the tides. So again, if the moon was a bit closer, the tides would be too strong. Even the moon affects the tilt. Again, briefly, the Earth is on a tilt. It's on like an axis, 23.5 degrees. You can tell I was a science teacher now. So that's important to keep in mind. That's supported by the gravity of the moon, because the moon has gravity. And if that was out, it wouldn't work, meaning there wouldn't be life, because probability says there'll be life prohibiting, not life permitting. Yeah, and that's just the book, which is on this topic for much, much, much more detail. You can buy it from Amazon for $40. It's a good book. Very good book. And it's good because I think it's good because besides all the facts, if you can prove, or you can show with convincing evidence that the Earth it's privileged, like it's special, very special. Therefore, by default, we are special. So a big thing I feel personally is that atheists they always say how we're not special. The Earth is not special, we're not special, therefore God is not special, God doesn't exist. If we can demonstrate how special the Earth is and unique the Earth is, therefore it follows logically, anyone with an open mind, that therefore we are special. We have incredible value in God's eyes. So even when we struggle as Christians to believe that we're special, we can go to science and show how special we are. because every day the Earth is orbiting perfectly in a circle. God is doing this order. I mean, how often do you, or I'll speak for myself, how often do I say to God, thank you, God, for keeping me in orbit. Thank you, God, for keeping the Earth in orbit. Thank you, God, for keeping the moon a perfect distance. Thank you, God, for keeping the sun a perfect distance. Thank you, God, for the tides being equal. Thank you, God, for so forth and so forth. How often do we do that? If we have that foundation, like we said, it can be an anchor for us. You know, when you go to a ship, you have an anchor, so you can't move. It's our framework. That will help in us gaining faith. It can help with us gaining faith during the tough times. So we should remember that, hopefully as a foundation, and build upon that from God's word, because God's word is the source of our value. This is what we have to do. There's one more nice stat. Anyone know how many stars there are? Many stars. Don't answer. The silent embarrassment of modern astrophysics is that we do not know how even a single one of these stars managed to form. We don't know how they formed, but we believe that God formed them. And there's so many stars that an estimation is you and me we can earn individually 11 trillion stars individually. And how many people live on planet Earth? What is it, 8 billion now plus? So that's important. I just want to show a 2-minute video, David. One more quote. I like this quote. Very quickly, we are, by astronomical standards, this is like a summary. By astronomical standards, a pampered is like, when you're like special, like a king, you get pampered. So we're like a king, when we say that, he even says that we're all kings, we're priests. We're priests in the sense that we're royal. So I'm not just I'm a priest, but you're a priest too in that sense. Yes, I have the grace to pray the holy, to perform the sacraments, have that grace, but you yourself are a royal king. You're prince and princess. So yeah, we get pampered and cherished. We're very cherished. The group of creatures are doing, which is evolution came, that we have done it all ourselves, is as ridiculous and as charming as a baby's brave efforts to stand on its own feet and refuse his mother's hand. If the universe had not been made with the most exacting precision, which is a kind word, it's mild, it's extremely fine-tuning, we could never have come into existence. It is my view that these circumstances indicate the universe was created for man to live in. And I will add further, and to thrive. We have purpose. We have, like the word teleological, we have an end goal. Where the end of chromosome has an end purpose. Yeah, we're not going to talk about rally all the time. If David wants me to do it another time, I'm happy. But if he wants to kick me out, I'm happy to. A 2-minute video, David. 2 minutes. I timed it. So this is the guy that I keep talking about that I attended. This is the Dirt in Sydney. He just kind of like makes fun of the atheist professor who talks about the word nothing. We mentioned the word nothing a lot. So let's just play it.
The great German philosopher and scientist Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz famously wrote, "The first question which should rightly be asked is, why is there something rather than nothing?" Before we can even begin to address Leibniz's question, it's important that we clarify the concepts involved. The word nothing is a term of universal negation. It means not anything. So, for example, if I say I had nothing for lunch today, what I mean is that I didn't have anything for lunch today. If you read in an account of World War II that nothing stopped the German advance from sweeping across Belgium, what it means is that the German advance was not stopped by anything. If a theologian tells you that God has created the universe out of nothing, he means that God's creation of the universe was not out of anything. The word nothing, to repeat, is simply a term of universal negation, meaning not anything. There's a whole series of similar words in English that involve universal negation. Nobody means not anybody. None means not one. Nowhere means not anywhere. No place means not in any place. Now, because the word nothing is grammatically a pronoun, we can use it as the subject or direct object of a sentence. By taking these words, not as terms of universal negation, but as words referring to something, you can generate all sorts of funny situations. If you say, I saw nobody in the hall, the wiseacre says, yeah, he's been hanging around there a lot lately. If you say, I had nothing for lunch today, he says, really? How did it taste? These sorts of puns are as old as literature itself.
It's interesting because we stress the universe came from nothing. Nothing existed because we believe the universe began to exist, which is universally accepted. And therefore, the atheist is left, or is left with the question, where did it come from? So they will try to say that maybe there was something there. It's nothing, right? But it's like something. So it's pretty funny. You can get into it. And he's written a book. The person he debates, the professor, written a book about nothing. I forgot the title, but about nothing. And he goes further. The William Lane Craig, he goes, look, okay. He basically says nothing is almost everything. And this is a funny way to say that there's nothing. So he's just emphasizing the point that nothing really is nothing. And we believe that God created everything from nothing. But that sounds a lot better than the atheist saying nothing brought nothing in. Doesn't make sense. Just wanted to throw that in there. So yeah, thanks so much, David and Carlos. No questions are allowed because of the time. They're allowed on the chat, I believe. But yeah, I just wanted to stress that.
There was one question I want to.
Go ahead.
No, if you're happy to answer, we're happy to.
But I think your supporter, colleague, won't approve.
David, is it right if I answer one question? All right, thanks. Chris is asking you, if God knows everything that's going to happen, then doesn't that take away our free will if the future is already written?
Yeah, that's a big topic, isn't it? You want to talk about predestination another time? That's a big topic.
Maybe one line of one.
Look, I would say a short answer to that is that, of course, the answer is no. And it's immoral for God to take away a free will because he's so loving. So it's important to not confuse the word is predestination, which is a fancy way to say God knows what we're going to do before we make any decisions. But for him to stop doing that, it would take away his free will and therefore go against his loving nature. So if we stress on free will, that God is loving and he loves us so much that he gives us free will, therefore it does not go against his nature, his loving nature, and therefore it doesn't change. It doesn't change the first part of that question. If that it tries to answer it a bit, but that's obviously a huge topic and it's a very complex answer, and I'm certainly not confident in my answers compared to some other experts. But that's what I would stress. And I think it's dangerous as well to focus on that, because if we focus on God's loving free will, that's a much better approach than saying God is like a control, he's like a big brother who's dictating what I do, so what's the point of doing it? I mean, you don't make decisions like that logically. Christopher, he won't, if he sees someone about to be hit by a bus, he's not gonna, and he could stop him. He's not gonna say, because God knows what's gonna happen, I'm not gonna intervene. That wouldn't make sense logically, and it wouldn't make sense morally. Does that sort of answer a bit, Carlos, in your opinion, for Chris?
I think so. Well, you're right. You're right. I think it's a big topic. I agree with you. And I love that you mentioned the predestination or that God has the foreknowledge, and it's a different idea to. It doesn't clash with the fact that God gave us free will. I agree with your answer, Abuna, and I think as well it's we can talk about it all night, but definitely we'll add it to the list of things to talk about.
Yeah, but
Because it's not the first time that it's
of course. Yeah. Further to the free will, it would be. I said this briefly last week. It would be immoral. It would be immoral if God created us as robots. It will go because.
Any other questions before David kicks Abuna off?
No, he's already kicked me off.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Abuna.
Thanks so much.
Thanks so much. I really enjoyed this actually.
The guys,
it's kept me busy.
To be honest, we're very lucky and to have you twice in a row. And you've honestly, I'm gonna search up this total eclipse. I actually searched up the next time it's gonna happen in Australia. Unfortunately, it's April 2023, so it's too far away.
You know, my friend, he saw one. He saw one. He was living in Cairns. I don't know if you know Michael Cosman. He was living in Cairns at the time. He saw it live.
Yeah.
I was so upset. I was gonna fly up to him. I was close to doing it.
Oh man, no, we'll have to all, we'll try join each other. I'm not sure where exactly in Australia it's going to be, but if we remember each other in 2023, we'll come together to watch the total eclipse.
You speak as if a monk is free to travel worldwide. You're forgetting. I live in permanent
We'll come to you.
lockdown.
We'll come to you.
I live in permanent lockdown.
Very true. So, khalas, we'll have to come to you. We'll bring the total eclipse to you.
Inshallah, it goes to party.
Guys, I'll remind you that we have our Tuesday Bible study catch up. I'm talking to two people that, it's 2 out of there's only 3 pre-servants left. I don't know where everyone left. By the way, Monica Suirish is one of our other servant leaders. So now there's literally Chris, Sarah, and Verena that's left. You guys are the champions. Thanks for sticking to the end. And you guys maybe can help me spread the word to meet up on that Tuesday and come on time. It's only 6:30 to 7. It's only half an hour. Okay, that'll be the only announcement. And I think before David asks Abuna, would you grace us with concluding prayer?
Yeah, sure. Father, Son, and Spirit, God, and we thank you for this wonderful opportunity to share in your word and to learn more about the apologetic side, or the how you created the universe, and you are the source of life. You are the source of the universe. You gave us life, and you are the source of the beginning. We ask you, Lord, to really bless this meeting and all the pre-servants and the servants, and help the future of this service. I ask you, Lord, to hear us as we pray. Thank you for saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Nice.
Thanks again, Abuna.
My pleasure.
Until next time.
Thank you, guys.
Pray for us, Abuna. Pray for us.
Thank you.
Will do.
All right, I'll see you guys.
Yeah, right.
Father John.
Yeah, man. Sorry. Whatever.
Bro, you killed him.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
No.